I'm sure it deterred some people, but we will be videoing over here. It is zoomed in on this area, but if you walk in front of the camera like this, your face will be nice and big on it. So keep that in mind whether you want that on there or not. So I just want to thank everyone for coming here. We had to switch venues a few times, but the Elks Lodge here is a great spot for us. And I hope everyone's comfortable. If you need to use the restroom, you just go over there through the curtain, and it's back to your left. And you know, feel free to grab a bottle of water, grab a notepad, whatever you would like. But I do want to thank everyone for being here. Erin Lee, our guest speaker, drove from Fort Collins to get here, and she is going to turn around and drive home after this. So I just want to thank her so much for taking the time to do that. Thank you. She had to reschedule, but she was in the hospital, and so she is still recovering. And so if at some point this evening she's feeling short breath or whatever, maybe Senator Lundberg, who is here with her as well. Thank you so much for driving her here. He might step up and help her out. But I do want to let everyone know that this event is a nonpartisan presentation. What we're talking about tonight is parental rights between the sacred parent-child relationship. And Erin is going to tell her firsthand experience and what her family experienced. And she's also going to go over a lot of fairly new Colorado laws and her interpretation of these laws and are pretty solid. She has been dealing with this for several years. So, but I encourage anyone when she's done with her presentation to ask her questions. If you want to challenge her. She's up for it. And I want everyone to feel comfortable here tonight, and I don't want anyone to feel intimidated or aggressive. Like, the idea is just to come together as a group and talk about this issue as a community. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Erin. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Awesome. I'm just going to take this off. Maybe. Well, thank you so much for having me. I don't think I've ever spoken in Summit before. And as she mentioned, I was in the hospital with pneumonia 10 days ago. So I'm operating at like 50% capacity right now. So bear with me. But as she said, this is a nonpartisan event. I'm actually, until 5 years ago, I was a left-leaning voter. I was your typical millennial, virtue signaling, overly trusting of the public schools parent. And my awakening started in May of 2021. I sent my daughter off to middle school. She had just turned 12. We just moved here from Florida to Fort Collins area and then again to a new community. It was the height of COVID. We had draconian lockdowns in Fort Collins, which I assume you experienced here in Summit County as well, where the kids were distanced and masked and remote learning. And my daughter was just so isolated. She's a shy, quirky, introverted kid, which we love about her. We always embrace that she didn't quite fit in with the other kids. I used to call her uniquely cool. And one day she was approached by her art teacher, her favorite subject, to stay after school for an art club. Has anyone seen the movie Art Club before I even? Oh, awesome. Okay, well, we'll get into the story then. I'm glad a lot of people haven't heard it. So her teacher approached her, asked her to stay after school for an art club. When she got there, it was actually GSA, or Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club. And the teacher had invited an outside presenter, a woman who runs an organization called Skittles for kids 2 to 11 and Splash for kids 12 and up to talk about gender and sex. She has kids, 12 to 32 was her typical age range for the Splash organization. And she told the kids, first of all, the rule of Art Club was what you hear in here, keep in here. She told the kids if you're not completely comfortable in your biological sex and your body, that means you're transgender. And what 12-year-old girl is comfortable in her body? What 40-year-old woman is fully comfortable in her body all the time? So of course she adopted that label, especially because she was so isolated. And they did what I call glitter bombing. They celebrated her for that proclaiming trans identity. Well, we're your family now, we're your community, we're all part of the LGBTQ umbrella. They asked who she was sexually attracted to, and when she didn't know, because she was barely 12, a very innocent 12, they said, that means you're queer. And she got more stickers and flags and bracelets and celebration for her new label. They talked about things like polyamory, which I had to Google to multiple sexual partners at once. They talked about puberty blockers and how to access them in the school without parent knowledge or consent. Well, if you're not comfortable in your body, you can just take these drugs. They're magical. They'll put a pause button and you don't have to feel that discomfort anymore. They talked about how to see a gender affirming therapist without my knowledge or consent, again, in the school. And they connected my daughter online to these predators, to Skittles and Splash on Discord and WhatsApp and other teen chat platforms where I didn't even know they existed. So I had no idea my daughter was communicating with these predators online. And as my daughter left the room that day, her art teacher even pulled her aside and said, remember, you don't have to tell your parents. Thank God, my daughter came home and told me. Now, it was not, oh, Mom, this horrible thing happened to me today. It was, I understand why I'm uncomfortable in my body. It's because I'm transgender. And I'm going to go by Toby now. I go by Toby at school and I want to cut my hair. And she was fully bought in to this idea that she was actually a boy who'd been born in the wrong body. And she expected me to celebrate her, to glitter bomb her the way that these predators had. And so she was caught off guard when that was not our initial reaction. But that one 90-minute meeting, which I now understand was preceded by years of subtle indoctrination, led to almost a year of the darkest time our family has ever been through. We didn't know how to talk about it. We didn't want to make it worse. We took her to a therapist thinking, I don't know what to say, but the professionals will. And we found out the hard way that in Colorado, licensed therapists are legally obligated to only affirm gender confused kids. And so the first therapist was, quote, queer and trans affirming, pushed her further into that identity. The second therapist, Christian therapist, was so afraid of this subject that she didn't talk about it. And so my daughter continued to get worse and worse and worse, more depressed, more withdrawn, more confused. And by December of 2021, about 6 months after the incident, she left us a suicide note because she didn't know how to live in the body that God gave her. And so we took her to a pediatrician, scared to death. I can't trust the therapist. She's going to die if I don't help her. And the therapist had me leave the room for the mental health assessment. That's where I learned 12-year-olds are the steward of their own health care in Colorado. And when I came back into the room, she had been prescribed Zoloft, a psychotropic drug, which I now understand is the equivalent of a 30-minute walk. So fast forward to today. It took about a year to get my daughter out of this. It was truly my husband. We were a team effort, but it was my husband who finally sat her down at the kitchen table when he found those Discord messages and said, do you really think we don't love you? Do you really think we don't support you? And she said, I don't want to do this anymore. That was the moment where we finally gave her an off-ramp to stop the trans identity. We had been avoiding it. She had been getting worse. These people had been feeding lies into her life. And that was the turning point for us. And so a few weeks after she started to get better, we watched the What is a Woman film by Matt Walsh on Daily Wire. Has anyone seen that film? Watch it if you have. It's hilarious. It's just true. We just ask true questions. But while we're watching it, she goes, Mom, why didn't I understand this was happening to me while it was happening? I said, well, that's by design. You were taken advantage of. And she said, how do I make sure this doesn't happen to other little girls? And I said, you have to let me tell your story. I think we have to go public. And so I contacted a friend who contacted a journalist. And by the next week, I was on Tucker Carlson and Glenn Beck and the Daily Wire. And I didn't even know who Tucker Carlson was. I was a Democrat. And what I found was so many families coming forward. So 4 other families just in that art club alone who had no idea. Their daughters followed the rule that what you hear in here, keep in here. One of those little girls who was on our federal lawsuit that we filed against the district in December of 2020, the same 2-week period that my daughter was suicidal, that little girl drank bleach and almost died. Her parents didn't know. They didn't know she was attending this club, and they were blaming themselves. Where did this come from? Why is she was all the identities. She was queer, bisexual, trans, asexual. And they're like, where does this come from? And it wasn't until we went public and they saw me on the news that they went, were you in that club? And she went, yeah, Dad, we weren't supposed to tell you. And so many families since then. I've now been public. This was April of 2022 that I went public, I've now heard from thousands of families across the country who have almost identical stories. Our stories are always the same. It's the quirky kid, the artsy kid, the autistic kid, the girl who's ashamed of her body because she's been sexually abused. And when an adult plants this idea that you can disassociate from your body, you can just accept this trans identity and all your problems will go away, it's so appealing for these kids. And 9 times out of 10, the parents are left in the dark, the same way that I was. Don't tell your parents. This is our secret. We're your family now. So I want to share some things with you. I love to use a PowerPoint because some of the things I'm going to share are so shocking. It's almost hard to believe them. But while we were fighting for our daughter's life at home, and like I can't stress that enough, even now she's 16 and a half, but there's not a day that I don't wake up and go to her room and wonder if she's still breathing. Because once your child has been suicidal, that fear doesn't go away. But while we're fighting for her life, I was also fighting back against the district. The next week, my husband, the next day, we pulled her out of school. And in doing that, they sent Child Protective Services to our home 3 days after the art club. My husband called the principal. I stood before the school board pleading, crying, please give me answers. Why did this happen? Where is this coming from? Why did you lie to me? And it took me 3 months to get a sit down with a member of my school board, 7 members. When I finally got a sit down with the school board president, her name's Kristen Draper. It turns out she's got a trans-identified child. She was proud of what had happened. They confirmed that these are confidential clubs because as a school, they're obligated to provide a safe space for children. So a safe space from their parents. And it became clear to me in that moment that no one was on my side. I was so naive and foolish to think someone's going to think this was wrong. Like, this was sexual abuse of a child. Surely someone's going to think this was wrong. Nobody. Not the principal, not the superintendent, not a single board member, not the other parents in my community. I've been called worse names than I can even repeat for my decision to step forward. But I did, when I went to that school board meeting the next week, I met a parent. She said, Erin, do you know about Cora? And I was like, no, who's Cora? She goes, no, Colorado Open Record Act. You have a right to see what your school district is doing. How many people here know about Cora? So great, that's more than most audiences I talk to. So it's the reciprocal of FOIA, the Federal Freedom of Information Act. Every state has a reciprocal. Ours is Cora. Our government is beholden to us. Their finances, their calendars, the curriculum, their communications. We have a right to see that, even if you don't have kids in the district, because our tax dollars pay for that school district. And so I started to exercise my right to Cora. Actually, first, I forgot I have this. This is the first time I've ever shared this. Before I move on to what I found, I want to share this video of my daughter just to show you. The first question I always get asked is, how is your daughter now? And in April, she did her probably one and only, oh, I'm wearing the same suit, whoops. She did her probably only public speech. It was very emotionally taxing. She's glad she did it. I said, will you ever do it again? She said, probably not anytime soon. But I want you to hear in her own words what she went through and how she overcame. Maybe.
So now we're going to move on to the path of healing and assistance. And I'd like to start with Chloe and kind of asking her what brought her back to herself. And Chloe, was there a turning point or something your parents did to really help you see the truth?
So my parents never really tried to address it because they were really scared, but they also never affirmed the transgender idea. They also told me there wasn't a right or wrong way to be a girl. I think what finally helped me is when my parents decided it was time to intervene.
Sure.
Their approach was rough, but it's what I needed. To be honest, even now, it makes me really embarrassed and a little disappointed in myself. I declared in a direct message with an online friend that I was totally, absolutely a boy, and my parents just didn't get it. They refused to be supportive of me like I needed. I showed some really strong words at the time to make a point, and I'm not sure how my parents saw the messages with that friend, but I'm immensely grateful that they did. They sat me down at the table with my phone, and my dad brought out, excuse me, they asked me, is this really who you are? Are you really a boy? They asked with so much emotion that, for the first time, I really thought about it. When my dad was reading, I felt a lot of shame and despair that seemed absolutely inexplicable. But now I understand, it's because they were right. I'm not a boy, and I was just really, really confused. They helped me see the truth by directly confronting the issue, not dancing around it. If they chose not to, I don't think I'd be here today at all. My mom asked me not too long ago if we had affirmed the transgender identity, where would you be today? I told her I don't think I would be alive, honestly. Being transgender never made me happy. Looking back on it all, it was a dark path devoid of any of the things I was told being trans would provide.
Oh gosh, isn't she amazing? So that's hard to watch. She is so brave and so bright and so supportive of me speaking out to help other kids. In fact, she has started meeting one-on-one with trans identified children to let them know it's okay. You can come out on the other side. There's no wrong way to be a boy or a girl, and you can't be born in the wrong body. God made us perfectly. So she's a very shy, introverted kid, but she's absolutely a hero in my book. So that's how my daughter's doing. In case you were wondering,
So now we're going to.
she is now a healthy, thriving girl. She just got her first car. She's independent. She's amazing. But let's move on to the things I found in my school district. And I'm just going to skim the surface. I've spent about $5,000 on public record requests. I have over 10,000 pages that I've looked through. We got to keep this brief, so I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm going to share some of the most concerning things that I've found. I found this email that just 2 days after our art club incident, May 7, 2021, the presenter from Splash and Skittles is colluding with the art teacher, with the school board, with the superintendent to say you have a strong ally in the Board of Education. And we have pushed through these barriers at other middle schools. So they're referring to parents who find out as barriers. They discuss their right to lie to me under the Equal Access Act, which is not relevant. And then here's an email where they talk about if that persists, you'll want to do a well child check. Send Child Protective Services to my home, and they did. They sent a mandated reporter to my home. I didn't understand at the time, it was the principal, and I thought, oh, we're in a small town now, we're in Wellington, that must be how we do things. Like, we don't meet at the school, we meet at home. This must be a small town thing. No, that was a well child check on the welfare of my children. And I have now found out that in the state of Colorado, if my daughter had said, my parents are not affirming my transgender identity, I would have lost her. That would have been the day that they took potentially all 3 of my kids. And I had a newborn when the art club happened, a newborn and a 6-year-old. So they threatened us while we were at our lowest moment as a family that they caused. We were caught off guard. We were happy. We were living our lives. Our daughter was not transgender. She was quirky and awkward, and puberty sucked. It had just started, and no girl's comfortable in their body at 12 years old when puberty starts. But she was not transgender before the school got a hold of her and implanted that idea in her head. They also implanted the idea of suicide. They told her that being transgender makes you more likely to kill yourself. She didn't know what suicide was until they planted that idea in her head, and then she ultimately became suicidal. And you heard from her, if we had gone along with it, she believed she would be dead. That we would have pushed her so far into that spiral of depression rather than helping her through the confusion that she would not be alive. So in my school district, I found a 15-page transgender toolkit. Within it is a gender support plan. Has anyone heard of a GSP, a transition plan? Well, every school district has one. So Summit County, guess what? You all have a gender support plan on the books. These are secret plans to transition kids behind parents' backs. The very first question is, are the parents supportive? If no, how do we accommodate? So right off the bat, are the parents going to go along with it? They're not, then we're not going to tell them. It talks about what bathrooms to use, what overnight rooms to use, what showers, what name and pronouns will you call the child at school versus when you call home to the parents. And it has definitions in this plan like top surgery, euphemism for a double mastectomy of a child, dead naming, all kinds of ridiculous terms that don't belong around children. Again, I would caution you, this is a very standard packet, this 15 pages, and I would assume that Summit has something similar. And I also found emails of my school district transitioning an 8-year-old. The parents found, and I've exposed this, it's on the Daily Mail, it's on Fox News. Feel free to Google Laurel Elementary School. Even Jared Polis got press about this in DC, about these emails. So feel free to read through them. But they were transitioning an 8-year-old. The parents found out and objected. They said, stop it. Our child's a girl, stop transitioning her. And the school then took it, the principal right here, assistant principal, took it to the new DEI coordinator, who took it to the superintendent, who took it to the school board, who took it to the legal department. And the official direction from the school district is to continue transitioning that child at school. Just call them something else when you call home to the parents. In fact, let me get up here, I'll read it for you. Here's one of the emails they exposed. It says, thank you for presenting the question. Schools should use the student's affirming name and pronouns at school and use their legal name and corresponding pronouns when talking with the family until they are supportive of the student's new name and pronouns. Below is a link to our state's guidance on this issue. If you need more conversation, connect with our new LGBTQ plus IA coordinator. So when I complained to the school district, they didn't stop what they were doing. They tripled down on it. They developed an entire LGBTQIA department, and they hired 2 coordinators, one of them making over $100,000, which is double what a tenured teacher with a master's degree makes in the district. And that they've only grown that department. Even after the COVID ESSER funds were taken away, they added more positions. Yep, they doubled down. They're proud of what they did. I also want to share this video here. Do you guys have school-based health centers in Summit County? You do. I'm so sorry. Let me educate you about school-based health centers. These are private institutions that are in our public schools. So these private doctors have full access to your children. And in my district, we have a blanket consent policy. So if you agree to a Tylenol for your 6-year-old, you have just consented to medical care for your child until they graduate. So here's a commercial. Until I exposed them, they've now pulled it, but it was a public commercial that was on my school district's website for the school-based health center. Just watch the imagery. You got it? Thank you.
Welcome to the Health and Wellness Centers. We have 2 sites, one at Centennial High and the other here at Lincoln Middle School. Our team provides integrated and comprehensive medical and mental health care for pediatrics and adolescents. Any Cooter School District student can enroll for our services. We're part of a nationally recognized school-based healthcare model with over 3,000 sites in this country. We're also bilingual. Okay, let's go ahead and take a tour. As a healthcare facility, normally we wear masks, but for today's video, I am not going to. But don't worry, we sanitize everything regularly. This is the medical exam room at Lincoln Middle School. We provide full primary medical services, including acute care, management of chronic illnesses, preventative services, well child exams, sports physicals, and full childhood vaccinations. Services are provided either in person or through our virtual care equipment, which can scope eyes, ears, nose, throats, and even listen to your heartbeat. This is our lab where we can perform rapid tests for strep, flu, and more. If a student's contagious, we're going to send them home. If they're not, we're going to get them back to class ready to learn. This is our in-person behavioral health office. We offer screenings for concerns such as depression, anxiety, substance use, and adverse childhood experiences. Our mental health team provides counseling and referrals for longer-term care and support. Remember, we're here to help.
I feel like Ronald Reagan warned us against that, right? We're from the government and we're here to help. Did you notice the imagery in every single frame? And I call that, there's the rainbow flag, that's fine. But there's that pink and blue and white. I call that the child mutilation flag. That's what that stands for. There's a reason it's pink and blue and white, baby colors, children. There's a child mutilation flag in every single frame of this because there's a child mutilation flag on every single wall, on the pins, in the pictures, on the doors. There's a giant one behind the therapist's office. And did you hear they say that they refer kids out for adverse childhood experiences? transgenderism. So right here in the schools, our kids in middle schools, and again, 12-year-olds are the steward of their own healthcare in Colorado. We'll get to the laws here in a minute, but if your child is gender confused and you have a school-based health center, they can go see an affirming care therapist without your knowledge or consent, and they can be prescribed in these school-based health centers and you won't even know about it. Yeah, they're really dangerous. They call it the whole child, whole community model. Well, we have to have more access for kids that need health care. No. The intent behind these school-based health centers is very clear because they put it in every single frame. Okay, this is where things are going to get really crazy. So if you have a tinfoil hat under your chair, go ahead and put it on. These are the people who were in my daughter's classroom, who are influencing my community, my school district, and this is the reason that I need slides, because it's going to get so crazy that you're not going to believe me unless you see their picture. So this is the Skittles and Splash lady, Kimberly Chambers, who groomed my daughter and was communicating with her online. Even now, 4.5 years later, she has a whole page dedicated to my daughter where she posts disgusting, violent videos trying to entice her to leave her family and come to her rainbow family. Yes, 4.5 years later. And this woman, let me read this. She says she's queer mom to thousands of queer and trans youth throughout northern Colorado and southern California. This woman has what I call the classroom to trafficking pipeline. Often I call it the classroom to clinic pipeline, where they plant the idea that you're born in the wrong body, but the end goal is puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, surgeries, and being a lifelong confused medical patient and ward of the state. So there's the classroom to clinic pipeline. It's not hold harmless to change a child's name. Once you change their name, over 90% of the time they move on to medicalization. And once a child goes on puberty blockers into cross-sex hormones, 100% of the time they are rendered sterilized. So that's the goal. This woman has what I call the classroom to trafficking pipeline, and we do have missing children in my community. You can Google Melody Burns right now. 15-year-old Melody Burns went missing in October of 2023. We still have not recovered her, but the Loveland police have confirmed that Kimberly Chambers trafficked her. So this is the woman who was given unfettered secret access to my daughter, who confused her, who was talking to her online, queer mom to thousands.
She's still working?
Yep, she works for the county health department. She's on the comprehensive sex ed committee, and she's a substitute teacher in both Thompson and Poudre School District. They support her, they condone this. And all of these, the GSAs, I should mention, are school sponsored. So that's an important distinction that I always want to point out. There are two kinds of clubs that can be started. There's student-sponsored clubs, where they are started, led, and run by a student. For example, FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, because of it's Christian in nature, it cannot be school-sponsored. It can only be started by a student. School-sponsored clubs are started, initiated, led, and run by the adults. And so all of the GSAs in the Poudre School District and the Thompson School District, where this woman runs them, are school-sponsored. That means they were started by adults, and adults have unfettered access to the kids. They can say and do anything they want, and they don't have to tell you the clubs are happening. In fact, in my district, when I went public, and they were in a real S-storm in my school district, when I went really, really public, they put out a talking point that you cannot opt your kids out of clubs in the Poudre School District, and these GSAs have now mostly been moved to lunch hour. So even if you find out that it's happening, which you probably won't because they're meeting during the school day, you cannot opt your child out. Here's a thing that she put up. This was 2 days after my daughter's art club. Hey kids, hey 12 to 18-year-olds, let's hop online and talk about healthy polyamory. Again, multiple sexual partners at once. Here's her co-president of Skittles and Splash. His name's Rowdy. He is a social worker with the county health department, and he is a self-proclaimed vampire. Yeah, can't make that up. Here is the drag queen who is brought into these GSAs, who our school board president brings in to do the drag queen story hour with the kids. Our school board president is also the president of the library district. And so she has monthly drag queen story hours for the kids featuring satanic Chrissa Gunna. Chrissa Gunna also performs at our local churches. Do you guys have a Unitarian church up here? Oh, thank God. Okay. Well, the Unitarian church in Fort Collins is the ringleader of this ideology. They have something called the Transcontinental Pipeline, where they relocate trans children to Fort Collins in order to be medicalized. They also have an organization called Rainbow Villages, where they house these people that they have relocated to Colorado. And they also have a sex ed program that starts at birth called Our Whole Lives. So they publicly advertise sexualizing babies. And they also hold sexualized drag shows at the altar during Sunday service for children. Here's the pastor of that church. He's heavily involved in our school district, has helped pass policy, including a campaign called Be More Gay, Be More Trans. That's in our school district. Here he is saying trans people are divine. There's no such thing as other people's children. And then here he is calling on his congregation to sleuth and do justice to my family for speaking up about what they do. And we've had home break-ins. I get death threats all the time. Okay, there's more. I'm so sorry. Oh, I can catch a breath here. So when I started to do public record requests, I found someone named Silent Wellington who was also invited into my daughter's art club. And so I started to dig into who is Silent Wellington. Well, Silent is a self-proclaimed genderqueer, shape-shifting blood witch, a 21-year-old who had, again, unfettered access to my innocent little girl. Here she is doing rituals in her own blood publicly. Here's where the real kicker. I found that Silent Wellington not only comes into all the GSAs, she does training for the teachers, mandatory teacher training in the Poudre School District, one called the ABCs of LGBTQ. And if we go back to that 8-year-old that was transitioned, the assistant principal, who, by the way, the assistant principal who transitioned to the 8-year-old, after I exposed those emails, she was awarded Vice Principal of the Year for the state of Colorado. Yeah. But she cited that she learned that you lie to parents about transitioning kids in Silent Wellington's trainings. Here's one called How to Be a Trusted Adult to LGBTQ. And I only put up a few slides, but it's like 30 slides of the most abhorrent things you could imagine. They talk about what isn't a trusted adult. Anyone who says that's just a phase, you'll grow out of it, you're too young to really know. So everything a rational parent like me would say, they are teaching every single staff member, because this is mandatory training in the Poudre School District, that parents like me aren't safe, that we cannot be trusted with our own children, that we cannot share that information that our child is experiencing gender confusion, which is a psychosocial medical intervention. But they've already branded us as unsafe to every person in the district. And then she talks about the importance of medicalization. She says here 67% of transitioning people thought about suicide pre-transition, but only 3% after they got access to puberty blockers and surgeries. So if we just medicalize these kids, they won't be suicidal anymore. I call that the suicide myth. I know, because I was bullied with it. Parents like me are given 2 options: transition or die. Either you call your child by the new name and pronouns, or they will kill themselves. And they put that idea in the kids' heads too. It's a vicious, vicious cycle. But they are teaching the mandatory training of teachers that if you don't medicalize gender confused kids, they will kill themselves. She goes on to say, start the conversation. You start talking about LGBTQs, talk about your own sexuality. Ask the kids about their sexuality. Take them out for ice cream. Focus on you. And then she ends the training with how to get kids a gender-affirming healthcare letter written in the school. So the child's gender confused, they want puberty blockers, they want surgeries. Our teachers have been trained on how to get them a healthcare letter to go see their doctor. Again, 12 years old in the state of Colorado, you don't have to even know what's happening, but the teachers have already given them a healthcare letter to take to their doctor to get the puberty blockers. Okay, so here's my daughter's groomer, Kimberly Chambers. This is 1 week after the art club. And this, if you see here, this is our mayor standing behind her, and our school board president waving the transgender flag. Listen to this statistic that she touted, again, just 1 week after the art club. It's short. It's short.
Oh, okay.
Colorado survey shows us that nearly half of the students attending schools in Larimer County identify themselves as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, and queer.
Sorry, I didn't have the microphone there. But you catch that? Half the kids in Larimer County are LGBTQ. And I don't doubt that statistic. Who's heard of the Healthy Kids Colorado survey? Oh man, y'all got to do some research on the Healthy Kids Colorado survey. So this is a survey that goes out to every single school district in the state. It's a state-run program. Districts can opt out. I only know of 3 that ever have: Woodland Park to D20 and D49. The first 7 questions are you transgender? Are you sure? Are you LGBTQ? Are you lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer? Not sure, questioning. They're confusing. They produce skewed data. In fact, I pressed my superintendent. I was like, why are you, in one of these little round circle meetings that he was having, said, why are you pushing the Healthy Kids Colorado survey if you know it produces skewed results? And he said, well, we need the data to support our programming. That seems backwards. So they know what they're doing. Healthy Kids Colorado survey is evil. You can opt out. By state law, you are required to be given 2 weeks notice before it was given to your child in 7th and 10th grade. Opt out. But the reality is that many school districts are not notifying parents. They're just sticking that survey in front of your child. And unfortunately, it takes 13 times for a child to hear something before it becomes fact to them. That's statistically true. So if your child is given a survey and asked 13 times, what are your pronouns? Now pronouns are normal. That's just how we're going to introduce yourself. I'm she, her, I'm they, them. These surveys are not harmless. You have to opt your kids out. We got to stop giving them this data where they can tout statistics like half of the kids in our counties are LGBTQ. Okay, that's all the bad stuff. Take a breath. I'm so sorry. I leave this in here even for non-religious audiences. I'm a Christian, and I have come to the conclusion after being in this deep, dark rabbit hole for 4.5 years that this is a spiritual battle for the soul of our kids. This is not right versus left. I'm an unaffiliated. This is right versus wrong. This is good versus evil. And they are truly after our kids, and they want us out of the way. I learned that the hard way. So take that for what it's worth. I truly believe we're battling a spiritual battle for our kids. So let's talk about how we got here. Like, obviously, Colorado's in a lot of trouble, but I would have moved back to Florida if I didn't think it was worth saving, if I didn't think it was possible to fix this state. I do. But we have to understand the problem first, and then we have to understand how we got here and what we do about it. So how do we get here? Obviously, the public schools. There are no good public schools. I'm sorry. I'm so glad for these people who are running for school board. I truly believe you got to get your kids out of the government schools. That still leaves 80% of kids in the system, and we have to keep educating each other and fighting for them. But the public schools are a problem. I actually was trained in the early 2000s in South Florida. My undergrad is elementary education. And when my daughter was first indoctrinated, I almost went along with it because I had been trained to believe that you follow the child, that the child knows best, that this is totally normal, that maybe parents don't actually need to be involved in the situation. I had been indoctrinated. So I have so much empathy for these teachers who are practicing what I call toxic kindness, toxic empathy, where they think they're doing the right thing. And as a Christian, I can say that especially if you're not grounded in biblical truth, it's very easy to be deceived about what is right and kind and true. And these teachers are being trained that this is the right thing to do. So they are not bad people. Most of these teachers are very good people trying to do the right thing. They've been deceived. So the system, they're not broken. The system is deeply, deeply broken, and it has been for decades. Didn't Karl Marx say he was going to march through the institutions? Guess what? We're here. He did it. They own the media. They own Hollywood. They own TV. This stuff is on Blue's Clues. It's on Netflix for kids. It's been in our school district for a long time. We just weren't paying attention. But now all the red flags are going up, and it's time to start paying attention. So higher education, that's where I was indoctrinated. These kids are coming out of universities, again, with these mindset that this is just what you do. The teachers union is evil. Do you guys have a teachers union up here? Oh, they're evil. They're evil, evil, evil. Don't ever vote for a candidate who is backed by the teachers union. They truly believe parents need to be removed and that the government owns your children. So teachers union, bad. Outside influences, I didn't understand this until I learned that Silent Wellington was the witch was in my school district through a non-government organization, through an NGO. So they have unfettered access to our kids. They're allowing in, there's one called Summit Stone Health, Alliance for Suicide Prevention, the Unitarian Church. These organizations get into our school district and we don't even know they're there. So we need to pay attention. And when it comes time to Cora, I encourage you guys to exercise that right to Cora. I'd be happy to give anyone tips. Be more narrow so you don't have to spend money. That's my best advice. But always start with the money. Follow the money. Where is it coming from? What federal grants are you getting? What outside organizations are funding programs in your schools? And you'll find that there's a lot of NGOs who are in your schools and you had no idea. And then the laws. We live in the most insane legislative state on the trans issue. I actually just posted on my social media today a clip from Megyn Kelly's show last week where she said Colorado is the most far left, insane, what did she call it, lunatic state on the trans issue, and I'm about to show you why. So let's go back to 2019 when Jared Polis took office. I encourage you to take a picture of this. No one in here is going to know that all of these laws existed. But in 2019, they passed 1120. That made 12-year-olds the steward of their own health care. So your child, once they turn 12, can see a prescribing doctor and they do not need your knowledge or consent. I learned that the hard way. 1911-29, the ban on conversion therapy. Did anyone just notice the Childs versus Salazar case that went before the Supreme Court? So 2 weeks ago, November 7th, I think, or October 7th, there was a case called Childs versus Salazar. It's a therapist out of Colorado Springs who challenged this law, and we won, y'all. We won at the Supreme Court. So the decision may not come out until spring, but that law right there is going to get overturned. What sucks with all of these horrific laws is that it takes 5 to 6 years for these lawsuits to work their way through the system. And in the meantime, people are hurt. My family was hurt by this law. But we're gonna turn that one. That's one down. 1032, how many people remember back in 2019 when they passed the comprehensive sex ed law? A lot of people paid attention to this. This mandates the teaching of gender ideology starting in 5th grade sex ed. Now, you should know that you can opt your kids out of sex ed. So again, you are required to be given 2 weeks notice that it's happening starting in 5th grade, and you can opt your child out, and please opt your child out. Gender ideology is mandatory. They have to teach kids that they can pick their gender, there are infinite genders, that you can be a they, them, that a boy can become a girl. They're 10 in 5th grade, they're 10. I have an 11-year-old, that blows my mind. House Bill 23-1003, how many people know that they mandate mental health screening for 6th through 12th graders in the state now? Yeah, no one ever knows about this. If you watch my art club movie, you'll see a clip of me on the steps of the Capitol rallying against it. It passed. And also I got called a communist while I was testifying. So that mandates the mental health screening. All 6th through 12th graders, you don't have to be notified that it's happening. You cannot opt your child out because 1120, if you opt your 12-year-old out, they can opt themselves back in and they don't have to tell you. And if your child is deemed high risk, they're sent to the state's mental health program called I Matter. Has anyone heard of I Matter? It's in your schools. There's probably flyers. It's very heavy in the schools. I Matter is the state's mental health counselor program. So I took it upon myself after this passed. I was so upset. I took the screen. I was deemed high risk. Like, I think I'm a pretty healthy 39-year-old woman. I'm not at high risk of mental health issues, but I was deemed high risk. What does that tell me? Every single kid is being deemed high risk. And when they are, the results go to the school, not the parents. And if your child is high risk, they get referred to the state's mental health program, I Matter. So I followed the link. I looked at my therapist for I Matter. There was 8 available to me. They were all LGBTQ affirming and sex work positive. Sex work positive. Our kids are being referred to these people without our knowledge. So that's already happening. Most people don't know that that's happening. Again, you will not be notified when your child is screened. And you will not be notified when your child gets sent to the counselor in the state's program. 24-1039, how many people know it's illegal for a teacher to call a boy if they don't want to be called a boy? So I challenged the bill's sponsor on this. Her name's Janice Marchman. She's my senator. She actually took Kevin's seat. He gerrymandered. She took Kevin's seat once he termed out. She was the main sponsor of this. And I said, what if 5-year-old Billy wants to be Sally? And the parents say don't. She said, then we're going to respect Sally. I was like, what if they want to be a cat? Then we're going to respect Sally. So the intent of this law is to transition kids, not tell parents, even if it's a 5-year-old, the parent dissents, and they're a boy on Monday, a girl on Tuesday, a cat on Wednesday, and a dog on Thursday. It is illegal for a teacher not to comply. And this applies to charter schools as well, because they love to attack our charter schools. Do we have any in Summit? No. I'm sorry. 1170, the Foster Bill of Rights. Sounds good. We want foster kids to have rights. But this actually mandates that foster families must be affirming. So if a child is gender confused, and over 60% of the kids in the foster system are LGBTQ, they are all confused. If you're not willing to call that boy a girl, you cannot be a foster parent, even hypothetically. You have to sign an agreement that you'll be willing to transition kids, and if you don't, you can't be a foster parent. And guess what? 60% of the families in the foster family are Christians. They don't agree with this. Who does this hurt? The kids who need homes, who already don't have enough families to care for them. So it's mandated. You also can't send your foster kid to anything but public school, and you can't even look in their backpack, according to this law. 1071, I gotta be really careful here. I'm suing the state, and so I can't call a man if they don't want to be called that. So I'm gonna be really careful. But 1071 allows anyone who identifies as transgender to erase their felony history, to completely erase their criminal history. It was named after someone named Tierra, and Tierra was born a man. Tierra has felonies including lewd behavior with children and sexual assault. Our legislators named this law after this person. This person runs a child drag ring out of Colorado Springs where they pimp out little boys, dance like girls, to dance sexually on stages for tips from adults, often in gay bars, in adult settings. And they named a law after them. That passed. So once Tierra changed their name to Tierra legally, the criminal history goes away. Unless you have their social security number, you don't know. You have no way to know what they've done. Senate Bills 23, 188 through 190. This one was sneaky. They snuck it into an abortion bill, but it actually made us a child mutilation sanctuary state. So as this law is written, if a child can get here, irregardless of custody orders, of other state laws, of mandates, if the child can get to Colorado, they can be mutilated. And let's go back up to here. All they have to be is 12 to do it without parent knowledge or consent. So if they can cross that state line, they can get puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries, oftentimes without parent knowledge or consent, usually against the wishes of the other parent. I've helped a handful of dads from other states whose ex-wives have brought the children here against custody orders in states that don't allow this. 27 states have banned these procedures for children, but if the ex can get to Colorado, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter about the other law, doesn't matter about the custody agreement, the child gets medicalized. House Bill 1911-92, no one has ever caught this one. So how many people know that it's now mandatory that you teach lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer starting in first grade social studies? Okay, good, our school board candidates know, good. So that's mandatory. It is not optional. There is, unlike the sex ed curriculum, here's where they got sneaky, because sex ed has an opt-out and it starts in 5th grade. No opt-out, no right to tell the parent, no curriculum transparency in Colorado. So it's mandatory that they teach your kids about transgenderism in 1st grade, history and civics. They don't have to tell you what's happening. If you find out, they don't have to show you what they showed your child. So I dug into it. The state actually put out what's called an annotated resource guide. So it's by teachers for teachers. We passed this new law. It's mandatory. You have to teach this. We're going to give you some sample lessons that you can use according to meet this new mandate. I'm just going to walk you through the 1st grade lessons that are currently on the Colorado DOE website. Here's the law, and it just plainly says you cannot opt out, and there's no right to let you know that it's happening.
Doesn't the Supreme Court decision in the past allow us to opt out of this?
The Mahmoud versus Taylor, it should. Exercise that right, try. We have a real power struggle in Colorado. If you think back to like the legalization of marijuana, it's federally illegal, it's legal in the state. Who won out? State law. So that's the case for all of these laws. And I'll get into some others that were passed just in the past year where our state goes, but it's state law, it's policy, it's CHASA. You have to follow the state law, not the federal guidelines. So yes, exercise that right. Try to opt your kids out, but they may not honor it.
I got a legal form from the
Yes, they have a great one.
give this to
Try it. All you can do is try. And I actually, even though I have kids now in well, he just started Christian school because I failed at homeschool. So it's okay to fail. I had my youngest in homeschool, my middle's in a classical core knowledge called Liberty Common, and my daughter's in a private Christian school. And I still, even though I trust them wholeheartedly, I send an email on the first day of school to the principal and the teacher and say, hi, I'm mom. I'm in charge. You will not talk about these things with my child. And if you do, you must notify me. Now it's in writing. So put it in writing. Always put everything in writing. So try it. Definitely set precedent that schools should honor that. Yeah.
So when this passed a couple of years ago, you guys will remember that there was a big brouhaha at school. And I think 40 Hispanics came in there. It was kind of a big argument there. And what had happened was our board president at the time had gone down to Denver and had argued to put the LGBTQ starting in kindergarten. And she basically said, I represent Summit County. She had never talked to any parents. This was back years ago, right? So it was put in. That meeting was kind of ugly, if anybody remembers that. But the thing that the superintendent, Berg, said at the time was that before he implemented that curriculum, he would talk to the Hispanic community. So in one of their meetings that he has, he said, I will talk to you and tell you how we're putting that in. I can't speak for it. I don't go to those meetings, but I suspect nobody's ever said anything to any parent on how that was implemented. What was even scarier to me at that meeting, two preschool teachers testified at our board meeting and said kindergarten's too late. That's what they said. Too late. Too late. So That's just facts right there. Anyway.
Yeah, they tried to argue it to kindergarten. Our state board of education, I went and actually argued like 6th grade. Can you like start it in 6th grade, please? Throw me a bone. Nope, they voted to start it in 1st grade.
Oh, one thing on that. One of those teachers has a couple kids that are non-binary.
Of course they do. And think back to UPK. Do you think that Jared Polis passed UPK because he really thinks preschoolers need a free education? No, it's because he wants your kids a whole year sooner. They want them in preschool. Kindergarten's too late. That's what UPK is for. Okay, so I went to the annotated resource guide. I dug into the 1st grade lessons. Here's some identity charts, map your pronouns, your political party. Lesson all about Mayor Pete, all about Jared Polis's sexuality. 1st grade civics. We're not talking about Jared Polis's business acumen. No, he's a nepo baby, but he at least runs a successful business. We could talk about that. No, the lesson is about Jared Polis's sexuality. Here's a lesson about symbolism, why you got to have the rainbow flags in the crosswalk, in the classrooms, on the walls, in the stores, on your shirt. We're a safe space. Got to have the symbols. Here's a lesson all about Harvey Milk, who was a known pedophile, but it's an cutesy kids book, so it's good for 1st graders, right? And then also the 2012 Gay Pride Parade. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade, but they make me blush.
School after it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Again, known pedophile. He sexually abused little boys. But in the cutesy book, that's what's good for kids. Yeah, this is a lesson. 2012 Gay Pride Parade in San Francisco for 1st graders. And here's the one that almost makes me cry every time I read it. They put out a lesson about Sylvia and Marsha P. Johnson, the architects of the Stonewall riot in New York City, who are known transvestites, openly transvestites who were prostitutes who prostituted children to meet their drug habit. So they were pimps of children. And let me read you an excerpt from this 1st-grade lesson. Ready? Together they helped found a group STAR, Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, which offered housing to homeless and transgender youth, a particularly vulnerable population. Johnson and Rivera recognized that many transgender people turn to sex work after being rejected by their families. Currently on the DOE website, 1st-grade lesson about sex work.
How do you find out if our schools are implementing? I have 2 1st graders.
You don't.
Well, yeah, so is there Quora or anything, or?
You can try. I fought really hard for curriculum transparency back in 2022. I tried to pass a law and a ballot measure to just require that if you show it to my kid, you have to show it to me. And it was unilaterally shut down by the Democrats. So there is no curriculum transparency in Colorado. So they are not required to show you. You can ask, but they don't have to show you. Quora helps. Quora, the curriculum, and you just do it through the whatever format Summit County has. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's an actual platform. But just ask for the 1st-grade social studies curriculum. That would be a good place to start. This is social studies.
Do you know the URL for this?
I don't, but just Google Colorado DOE annotated resource guide, and the bill is 19-1192. So it's the annotated resource guide to meet the needs of 1192, which is this here. And I encourage you to read through. I'll read it for you just so you know what it says. It says that in 1st-grade social studies, they have to be able to identify and explain the relevance of notable civic leaders from different community groups, including African American, Latina, Asian American, Hawaiian Pacific, LGBT, and Q. So they slipped it in. Like, of course, we want our kids to learn about minorities. They slipped it in there. Super sneaky. So 19-1192 annotated resource guide. They may have password protected it. I've exposed this pretty heavily. They tend to do that. But the state is also Quora-able. So any government institution that runs on your tax dollars, you have a right to see what they're doing. Okay, that's just 2019 to present. Let's go into this past session, 2025. How many people know about 1312? Okay, good. Worst bill of all time ever in any state, ever. The Wall Street Journal even published an op-ed I wrote about this bill. That's how insane it is. So this bill, I call it the Call That Man a Woman or the State Will Come After You, and Trans Your Child or the State Will Take Them bill. This actually defined not affirming your child's gender confusion as coercive control, which is a form of abuse, and gave the court system in Colorado the right to remove them from your custody. So 4.5 years ago when my daughter came home and said, I'm actually Toby, If I hadn't have said, yes, you are Toby, we're going to transition you, the state would have had license to take her from me. But the reality is that that's already policy and practice in Colorado. I'm actually helping over a dozen families here in Colorado who have lost custody of their children for not being willing to affirm. Some of them just weren't affirming enough. There's a dad named Jason Zook in Thornton. He's a teacher, public school teacher. He is very far left. His wife suddenly became trans, then she left him. And then within weeks, both of his sons, 7 and 9, were non-binary and trans. He found himself at Children's Hospital for puberty blockers. And when he showed skepticism, he was like, I probably would have gone along with it. I just felt like someone had to ask questions. Everyone was just nodding their head. Yes, the 9-year-old needs puberty blockers. Let's do this. I was just like, what are the side effects? Can you tell me the negative side of this? And in doing that, he lost 100% custody of his children. They are now 13 and 15, and he has not spoken to them in 4 years. So it's already policy and practice. There's a mom in Rifle, actually, right down the road, who lost her 16-year-old daughter, ran away to a groomer teacher. The teacher is with a trans-identified man, and they put in an emergency custody order on the daughter, and they got a woke judge with a trans-identified child who granted the custody order, and now her child is illegally in the custody of her groomer, her minor child. And then within a week, she got a ping from her insurance company for the wrong sex hormones that they had put her daughter on. And when she went public about it, because she was furious, because what mom wouldn't be? You kidnapped my daughter, you're probably sexually abusing her, now you're medicalizing her body. She went public. They hit her with a restraining order. Her daughter included. The 2 people that have her daughter and her minor child hit her with a restraining order, and it was granted. So she can have no contact with her minor child who's living with the groomers. That's in Rifle. This is a loving mother who has 4 younger children, a stable marriage, and she lost custody of her child. She may never talk to her child again because she's in the arms of the groomer. So it's already policy and practice. It also mandates that if you call a man a man, the state can come after you for $5,000. The person who was offended by you using the wrong name or pronouns can come after you for $50,000 every time you use the wrong name and pronouns, and it also comes with a 4-month jail penalty. So if I were to call Tierra by their biological name, I could be fined $55,000 and go to jail. Here's the good news about 1312. We're suing the state. So Protect Kids Colorado, my organization, filed the first federal lawsuit against this law. I'm in a battle with Phil Weiser, and I'm going to overturn it. So we're done. We're done with that law. 1309, how many people know that your insurance company is required to pay for any procedure any trans-identified person wants? So within that law, it was actually explicitly listed: facelift, skin tightening, hair implants, nose jobs, blepharoplasty, breast implants, phalloplasty, which is creating a fake penis that would never work, taking a giant chunk out of your arm or your thigh. It is now required for your insurance company to cover that. Yes, your premiums will go up. Yes, insurance companies will leave. And you may go, oh, but I thought Donald Trump cut off Medicaid funds to that. Oh, don't worry. Our Senate put in an amendment that created a slush fund of Colorado taxpayer dollars. So you are paying for that. Your insurance is paying for it, but you're also paying for it with your tax dollars. What this also did was make testosterone secret. So testosterone was on what's called the drug monitoring program for the state. That removed it. It actually eliminated all existing data on testosterone. So you're not just paying for the wrong sex hormones of 9-year-olds against the other parents' wishes because they got to Colorado. It's done in secret. That is already law. They put in a safety clause. We can't challenge it. Yeah.
I just have a question because I prescribe testosterone as a physician treating things like prostate cancer, recovery, stuff like that.
Only wrong sex.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna say they track me. I have to put in all my stuff.
Oh, not anymore. You may enter it somewhere, but it's not available to the public. And only wrong sex. So a woman who's going through breast cancer reconstruction who needs breast reconstruction is not guaranteed coverage by her insurance company. In fact, I know some women who were denied, but a man who wants breast implants, 100% covered, and you're paying for it. Senate Bill 129 made us the most fortified trans sanctuary state, a child mutilation sanctuary state. So this eliminated any course of action for these detransitioners. If you were harmed by a doctor, it's actually illegal now to respond to a subpoena. So federal government, the medical board, if anyone wants to investigate these butcher doctors, you can't. It's illegal. Even if they're legitimately engaging in malpractice, they cannot be investigated. So there's no course of action for the detransitioners. If you're harmed, sorry, can't come back and try to sue. 251109, this one's just insane. So this passed, it mandated that anyone who fills out a death certificate, if the family wants that person to be recorded as the wrong sex, you have to record it, or else it comes with a 4-month penalty in jail. So these coroners, doctors who fill out the birth certificate or the death certificate, I mean, they're looking at a body. It's an XY. It has a penis. But if the family says that's a woman, you got to record it on the death certificate as a woman. That skews medical data. We are going to be the first state in the country to have an uptick in women dying from prostate cancer. That passed. That's real. It was laughable, really. I mean, the whole committee hearing was laughable. At one point, the bill sponsor said that gender identity is developed in the second trimester. Wait a minute, so I thought they weren't babies yet, but then they're also developing their trans identity before they're born. I don't know. Senate Bill 183, not really related, but you should know that it's now constitutional thanks to a ballot measure that abortion up until birth, even after birth, is legal. And this bill made it so that it's taxpayer funded. So we're not just killing 39-week babies or babies who have been born and letting them die on the table. You're all paying for it. 1239, that just added the penalties for 1312. And then this is a really important one to understand. I've actually never covered this, but I'm pursuing a lawsuit against the state for it. So Colorado Revised Statute 22-143-1 mandates that every school district must pass a policy that allows people to use the facilities according to gender identity. So every school district, even if it's a good school district like Woodland Park or D20, they have to pass a policy that allows boys to use all the girls' facilities, girls to use the boys' facilities, and it's not negotiable. Does this violate federal law, executive order, Title IX? Yes. But here we are again in the conundrum where Colorado thinks that they're God and they can pass any state they want and it supersedes federal law. So it is state statute. So if you have boys competing on the girls' team and you go to your school district and say, how do I stop this? They're going to say, we are bound by law to allow it. Again, I'm working on a lawsuit to challenge that. Okay, whew, that's a lot, sorry. That just skims the surface of the legislation that makes us the most insane, radical, lunatic state for gender ideology. I believe that we have a state-mandated religion in Colorado, and that religion is gender ideology. It operates like a religious cult, and they have mandated that every one of us, you are all bound by 1312. If you call a man, you can go to jail. Every single one of us. Me standing here in this room. So we're all bound by this. We've got to turn it around. What do we do about it? Number one, this. You're doing it right now. Learn. Understand what the issue is, and then talk about it. I think the most impact we can have is in our own sphere of influence, talking to our neighbors, our friends. How many people have learned about a law tonight? Right? We don't know what we don't know. Most people aren't so far down the rabbit hole. So we've got to educate each other and make sure that our neighbors know what's happening. We can't fix the problem if we don't understand it. But now you understand it, so talk about it. Number two, get the kids out of government schools. I don't call them public schools. They don't work for the public. They are government schools. Get your kids out. You have to. It's not safe. And it's not a popular opinion. We've been booed out of conservative communities for that talking point. I understand that offends some people. I sacrificed for my kids. Is it sacrifice to go to Christian and charter and homeschool? Yes, but you either sacrifice for your kids or you're sacrificing your kids. Like, what is more important to you? So the sacrifice is worth it. And also, I had a mom come up to me the other day and she's like, my fifth grader just started in Cherry Creek. How can I stay on top of what they're doing? And I was like, get them out. Like, you are going to spend more time having to review every single thing that comes home and do choras and ask questions than you would just driving your kid to the charter school or the private school or homeschool. Homeschool is way easier than you think, even though I failed at it. I work full time. It was not for me. It's not for everyone. But I do believe we need to get our kids out, fold the system financially, research Cora, ask questions, expose. What did I do about it? We made our film, Art Club. It's available for free at artclubmovie.com. Anyone can watch our story, and we give a great detail with experts about how we got here, what you do about it. Lawfare. I did file a federal lawsuit against my school district. Pam Bondi was my attorney. We battled for the last 3.5 years. 10 days ago, while I was down in the hospital with pneumonia, the Supreme Court denied to hear my case. So it's dead. But I did get a decision written by Justice Alito, Kavanaugh, and Thomas who wanted the case. So that's encouraging. And they did call it troubling and tragic. They did say that the lower courts are evading this and that eventually the courts are going to have to decide what is a parent. Do we have a right to know what's happening with our kids? So I'm confident that through lawfare, we're going to overturn this practice of secret school transition. It's not going to be my case, and that's heartbreaking. But I believe I cracked the door open a little bit wider for the cases behind me, and there are over a dozen working their way through the system. So lawfare is costly. It takes a lot of time. It's brutal, but it's necessary. Show up. You have 2 great school board candidates. I understand you have 3.
No, not already.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, that, no.
Oh, not you guys. Oh, you guys, I'm sorry. Oh, you just know a lot about what's happening. We got it back. School boards are so important. We're a local control state, and over 90% of our funding comes from state and local funds, not the federal government. People have been like, well, didn't Donald Trump pass all these executive orders? Yeah, he did. Colorado's just going to thumb their nose at him. We are local and state funded. We are a local control state. Your school boards make all the decisions for your kids, and they matter. And brave people stepping up. We have no good school board candidates in the Poudre School District. Everyone's afraid. So the fact that you have 3 brave people running here, you've got to get behind them, door knock, talk about it, get them elected. School boards make such a difference. Show up at the State House. I know you're 2 hours away, but how many people know you can Zoom in to testify against the bad bills and for the good ones? You can Zoom. It's 3 minutes of your life. Show up, let them know that you're not okay with it. Put it on the record. With 1312, when that horrible law was passed, I had 24 hours notice. With 24 hours, I got over 50 people to testify against it. They only had 42 for it. So we outnumbered them. Did it pass? Yes. But did it bring a lot of negative attention that Jared Polis didn't like? Yes, it did. Yeah.
I have a quick question, and by the way, you're amazing. Give it a
Oh, thank
You're
you.
amazing. So before you get past too many slides, the slide that we saw before this with the laws, is there a one sheet that shows the money that the taxpayers are paying for those laws that are in effect? Is there anything that we can show people what they're paying for?
Each bill
Has a fiscal note. So there's not, but if you go to protectkidscolorado.org, my organization on our resources page, I have a one sheet that has all of these laws. And if you just Google that on the Colorado House legislative website, each law has a fiscal note where you can see that.
Okay, but nobody.
There's no one pager yet. No. Hey, write that down, Ken. We need to add that to the one pager. Most of them carry a pretty hefty fiscal note. Yeah. Yes. Nope, that's as far as it goes. You'll have to get up.
One of the notes, 16 years down the legislature, found a couple of things. One of which is, yes, the fiscal note will give you some hints, but if it's a bill they want passed, they'll really play a softball on the actual cost. So the real cost is often not represented. It's a good place to start.
I just know that
They're dirty.
when we're talking with our friends who don't see eye to eye with our ideologies, sometimes when you get right to the grit and keep the politics out of it and get into the taxpayer dollars and
Yeah.
see what they're paying, maybe some people will listen a little better.
That's a great place to start. And another talking point I always recommend if you're ideologically different is, hey, did you know that 80% of kids in Colorado can't read, write, or do math at grade level? Like, let's just start there. We all want kids to succeed academically.
Well, we all got shut down. There's many of us here who went to the school board in 23, and we said these kids can't even add 6 and 4.
Yeah.
But yet you're telling them they can go ahead and have a sex change, and we all got shut down.
It's nuts. Yeah.
I just wanted to point out, when you start putting mandates in for healthcare, what happens is that your insurance changes, and nobody knows this. So what was covered, like on the prostate cancer, let's say your prostate cancer was covered, you got certain drugs that were approved. Now you don't because you got to pay for this. So it's always a shift when you deal with healthcare law, and I think that's something that's really missed when people vote for things.
Yeah.
So.
And oftentimes good intent has bad consequences. So a lot of times they deceive people on these bills, and then we watch them like 1073 that lets the felons out if they're not deemed mentally capable to stand trial. And now we have murderers who are on the street. And it was Republicans voted on that because they had good intent. Yeah.
Now, along those lines, a couple of years ago, the school approved gender affirming care for teachers. People didn't notice, but I believe it took another like $2 million out of the general budget. Don't quote me on that number. But yeah, it's absolutely affecting. So the general budget is your teacher pay and all that. So it was absolutely moved, from what I can tell, from teacher pay that into another budget that I don't think anybody understood. So,
Oh man.
anyway.
I'm trying not to hold you guys hostage. I'm almost through, I promise. Thank you for your patience. I just get involved. You know, your local groups, you're all here. That is a huge step. But talk about it with your neighbors. Get involved. My organization, Protect Kids Colorado, we always need volunteers, and I'll get to that in just a second. But I always want to emphasize grandparents, you have such an important role to play. Most speeches that I give, it's 90% grandparents because they've got the time. Parents, we're working full time. We're running our kids around. We don't have time to look at the curriculum. We don't have time to pay attention to these laws and go to the state house, but grandparents do. And there's a great organization called Grandparents for Kids. It's just .org. Based here in Colorado, her motto is get off the golf course and get to the school board. She trains you how to give school board speeches, how to speak up at the legislature. They do wholesome story hours to combat the drag queen story hours. It's a great organization, but grandparents are so important in this. In fact, my parents stepped up and paid for my kids' Christian school so that I didn't have to put my kids in school anymore. So it's huge. Okay, I'll end with this and then I have a few more slides, but my last piece of advice, I always end with this. I had a newborn and a 6-year-old when this happened, and I really struggled with, you can't protect your kids from gender ideology. Again, it's on Netflix, it's on billboards, it's in cartoons, it's everywhere, but you can't inoculate your kids from it. They need to understand it's happening and they need to be prepared to combat it. So I've boiled it down to 4 things. Number 1, safe adults don't ask you to keep secrets. Like, I wish I had taught my daughter that. Number 2, no one should ask you to label yourself, like that whole identity chart. You don't need pronouns. You don't need a political part. You are 7. You have time to figure out who you are. No one should be asking you for your labels. Number 3, trust your gut. And this goes for parents. You know, my instinct, I almost went along with it. And it was my husband who was like, absolutely not. Our daughter is not a boy. We're not doing that. My instinct says no. And you heard her. If we had gone along with it, she wouldn't be alive today. So you've got to trust your gut and teach your kids that. You know, my kids know if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't, and you have the authority to remove yourself from the situation. I don't care if it's your classroom. They have Apple Watches in their backpack, and they know if someone makes them uncomfortable, I'm going to go call my mom right now. You're not safe. So you got to arm your kids with the authority to remove themselves and to understand if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And then finally, from my Christian perspective, God doesn't make mistakes. We are male and female. There's no wrong way to be a boy or a girl. If you're not a Christian, that's okay. It's science. XX, XY, can't change it. Teach your kids. I was never like, my daughter, I'm like, you're beautiful, you're smart, you can be anything you want to be. I wasn't like, you're a biological girl and you can never become a boy. I now understand that's necessary. You have to have that conversation with your child before they're faced with this ideology. Okay, real quick, here's how you can follow me. I go by Erin for parental rights. My movie, artclubmovie.com, is actually created by former State Senator Kevin Lundberg, who's also the chairman of our organization, the founder of Protect Kids Colorado. And he really contradicts your opinion about politicians. He's the most amazing, principled, wonderful mentor and friend I've ever had. He deserves all the credit for me being willing to stand up and talk about this. Please. And then I belong to a ministry called Don't Mess With Our Kids. Did anyone see the rally in Antifa in Seattle where Antifa showed up and was like throwing water balloons at the Christians who were peacefully praying in the park? That's Don't Mess With Our Kids. They're amazing. So they're a great one to follow. My organization is Protect Kids Colorado. I'm the executive director. And then finally, we are running 3 ballot measures. They're in the back. Ken Armstrong is our mountain region coordinator over all the mountain counties. We need 200,000 signatures by February 1st. We'd like to have it done in 2025. But these are the 3 issues we're putting on the ballot. If you buy or sell a child for sex in the state of Colorado, life in prison, no chance of parole. Right now, 90% of rapists get out on probation. You can rape 3 children 3 different times and you are guaranteed probation in Colorado. How many people knew that? We are the most friendly rape and trafficking state of children in the entire United States. We're number 1 for trafficking. We're number 1 for rape. So we're trying to put an end to that. No boys and girls sports. Sorry, XXXY doesn't belong in the XX. XY doesn't belong in the XX. It's that simple. We don't want anyone to be left out. We just suggest male, female, co-ed, and then intramural can still be both sexes. And then finally, protecting our children from irreversible sex change surgeries. We are the number 10 state for child mutilation. If you want more data, it's on our website, protectkidscolorado.org. But there's an organization called Do No Harm that put out a website. It's stoptheharmdatabase.com. And they did a study based on public insurance data. Now, that doesn't include Kaiser Permanente, doesn't include self-pays, doesn't include fraudulent coding, which is a big part of they're miscoding endocrine disorders in order to get kids puberty blockers. But they found that from 2019 to 2023, in 4 years, 14,000 children had been mutilated in the United States. Colorado was number 10. Children's Hospital is now under investigation by the FBI and the DOJ for mutilating children, and there are 64 hospitals in the state that chemically and surgically mutilate children. So we're trying to put an end to that. 27 states have outlawed it, and most of the doctors, when they get shut down in their states, they move to Colorado because we're the child mutilation sanctuary state. So we would be the first blue state, the first state by the will of the people to ban this practice on children. How wild that my life is dedicated to trying to get kids healthy body parts from not being chopped off. But here we are. It's an actual serious problem. Okay, seriously, last thing, I promise. I just want to share our ballot measures are chaired by two really amazing people. Jennifer Say, who's the founder of XXXY Athletics, the Olympic gymnast, Emmy Award winner. She's amazing. And then Mark Ozgeist, who's one of the Benghazi heroes who saved people in the Battle of Benghazi. And there are issue chairs. So just real quick, I'm going to play our 1-minute commercial about our ballot measures so you understand some more about them. And then I promise I'm done. And I hope you will go sign and pick up a petition. It's so easy. You don't have to stand out in front of King Soopers. I'm not a good solicitor, but how many people know 20 to 40 people? Okay, that's the only qualification. They're 40 signature lines each. If you can get half of that, every little bit helps. Again, we need 200,000 signature. We are an all volunteer effort. We will be the first one to get this on the ballot. And our polling shows that when we make the ballot, 80% of Coloradans will vote yes on these 3 issues. We will topple the dominoes. You will watch Colorado regime of gender ideology fall, and it will be by the will of the people. So I encourage you to take a petition if you don't already have one, and then I'll just end with this commercial. Protecting our children. What could be more important? But some politicians' extreme policies have failed to protect our children, violating our trust. It's time for voters to act by passing 3 specific new laws.
It's time to protect our children from child sex trafficking with a citizen initiative to ensure perpetrators never have a second chance to brutalize another child. Our ballot measure sets a penalty of life in prison without parole for anyone who buys or sells a minor child for sex.
It's time to protect girls in sports from bigger and stronger males with a citizen initiative that protects female athletes' dignity, safety, and opportunity. Our ballot measure requires athletic leagues and teams be specifically designated male, female, or co-ed.
It's time to protect our children from irreversible sex change surgery with a citizen initiative that protects their reproductive future and our tax dollars. Our ballot measure prohibits irreversible sex change surgery on minor children aged 17 and younger.
Voter enacted common sense protections for our children.
But these 3 ballot measures won't happen without your help.
Please join us and do your part so our children can have a better, brighter future.
It's time. Protect our children, Colorado.
That's it. Yay!
I want to say one thing about this, that Erin has certainly shared a great deal from her heart and from a mind that I can't even comprehend how she keeps all that time in there. Remember, she's about 50% right now because the lady was down with the pneumonia just recently. But it's remarkable to see what God's doing through her, but more importantly, what all of us need to be doing here in the state of Colorado. So I want to thank you for coming out and hopefully now I should also tell you that she would love to stay here and talk for a long time, but doctor's orders, that's my order, is we're going to get her back home so she can continue her recovery. Thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, that's a lot, right? I know.
I'm Tom Day. I'm one of the people running the school board. You are amazing. I
Oh.
know a lot about this stuff, and I was like drinking from a fire hose. This is great. So thank you so much. And we got a lot of work to do. We need to stop this stuff because this is Satan. Okay, we need to get rid of this stuff. So
Yes.
please help us. Tell all your friends. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to take questions if people want to, if we have time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Gonzalez. I'm running for school board. And thank you again for being here tonight and sharing your story. So please give a round of applause for you.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve it.
If you have time, I'm happy to answer questions too.
anyone have a question? All right. Yes.
Real quick, I don't know if there's any teachers in here, but my fiance is a teacher at Jeffco.
Oh,
And
the
she's
worst.
on the conservative side. She has to bite her tongue, walking on Legos and pins and needles, getting through her middle school band or she's an award-winning teacher. And I hear the stories from her, and it's scary. So I appreciate what you're doing. And as to our candidates here, she was offered a job up here, but had refused $30,000 a year pay cut. So I don't know what the finances are in this system. I don't have a dog in the plan. Taxpayer. Something screwed up with the finance stuff. You can't get award-winning teachers in here. But it's maybe most of your teachers are outside that you're fighting against. Yeah. She hates going to the teachers' lounge at her school in Jeffco.
Jeffco is the worst district in the country,
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
Wow.
Sarah,
Yes.
so this is for either of you. Why do you think Secretary McMahon's not doing more? It seems like she's on the sidelines. I don't see her in front of anybody doing anything.
You want to answer that? I can answer that.
Or is she not willing to mix it up like the rest of the
I work with her behind the scenes. I have been working with the Trump administration. We've armed her with a lot of information. I was really hopeful, and I've been really disappointed. I don't have an answer for that other than we've given her everything she needs to come after the state of Colorado, Jeffco, Pooter.
Could she withhold money and
Yes.
do what everybody else is doing?
She could, but it's important to note that over 90% of our funds are state and local. So, and my district has said, we'll just put out a mill levy and the people of Fort Collins will pay for it. So the power of the federal government is only the purse strings. And when it comes to education in Colorado, they don't really have that power. We do. The state does. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just move?
Right. I know. I also get asked a lot, why are you not in jail? My husband gets that question a lot. I was not a Christian before this happened. God got a hold of us and saved my daughter and I now. It's the families. It's all the families who have come forward for help, who are afraid to speak up, to the tune of hundreds and hundreds of families in Colorado who've been affected. And I'm the only one talking about it. And so I have this weight on my shoulder, this obligation where I feel like God has me here for a reason. And I'm going to keep fighting until I think we can fix Colorado. So it would be easy to go home.
I guess the better question is with young kids, like, I mean, this is not changing anytime soon.
No.
This is a decade, 2 decades, 3
Yeah.
decades to change this. And it seems like the only way that political change happens is things have to get real bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to have to get so bad. And I mean, I voted for you last time, and I was like shocked at the results. Like, who is voting for this shit? Right?
Teachers union.
It's unbelievable. And so we're this. You know, we moved here 4 years ago. We can live anywhere in the country, and we're like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Like, I like to ski, but do I like to ski this good? And it'd be one thing if the academics were good, but the academics suck. I mean, our SAT score is 944. You know, like I'm an MBA, Aaron's an MD. There are no kids coming out of this district that have MBAs or MDs. Yeah. Like I asked the teachers, I'm like, where's the excellence? And they're like, oh, like somebody started a business, like the soup song. And I'm like, I mean, that's great, phenomenal, but like, I want more for my kids, right? And they're not giving it to me.
That's what we're trying to change. I mean, I've got a 30-year-old. When he graduated, we had an 82% accreditation. Now we're like 56. And they can't use COVID as an excuse because most of the decline happened before COVID.
So you guys have all been here for a long time. Should we leave?
Okay, I'm gonna give you a hard truth.
No, we need you to help us.
I'm gonna vote for you, but I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not gonna work. Right?
I'm gonna give you a really hard truth. Ready? You are not immune from this in rural Nebraska. This ideology has infested every single school district in the country. You can't outrun it. Is it worse here in Colorado? Yeah. And I don't fault anyone for leaving. It's state down, but I just want people to understand it's a ubiquitous problem. It's countrywide. It's not unique to Colorado. We're probably more insane than anyone legislatively. We're trying really hard to overturn that.
I can't even send my kids to a private school here because it doesn't exist. There's no charter school, no private school, no. I mean, like.
I don't fault anyone for leaving.
Places in the whole goddamn world. Why don't we have a private school here?
Yeah.
Guys, we need to forget the public school. We need to start a private school. Vale Christian, great private school. Like, I want to get behind your guys' campaigns and get behind the school district. It's a lost cause. We need to write it off. We need to start a private school. That's the only way that families like me, my family, are going to stay here and come here.
I know he has an
I
opinion.
just left after 34 years. Summit Cove Elementary, 5th grade. She tells us that she's a lesbian. Why are you even being taught that, right? And that makes sense from what I heard from you today, because that's where they start teaching sex ed mandatory, right? We go up to Minnesota for the summer. She turns back into a girl. Bikinis, playing with dolls and her cousins and all that, right? Within weeks of going to Summit Middle School, she was seeing a school therapist, the same one that was brought up on charges for failure to report abuse of a minor. She got off, but it tells me that there's something there. My wife has a master's in family therapy. Ask my daughter, what are you and your therapist talking about? We're talking about my identity and whether I'm really a boy, whether I'm really a girl, or maybe I'm a boy, maybe I'm neither. Within weeks of middle school, she declares that she's non-binary, all right? Wife quits her job, we homeschool, right? You know what it's like trying to support a family on a single income here, right? Then our daughter shuts down and she's pissed because she wants to go to school, right? She gives us a silent treatment for like 3 years, right? Then 1312 comes up and we said, that's it, we've had it. Bought a house in Hillsborough County, Florida. I just got back, flew in today to get the rest of my stuff, and I'm driving my truck, and I'm done with Southern County. 34 years, I contributed to the community, 6 years as a building inspector, helping to make this community safe, but we're done with it. Thank you, Erin, and your comments have been so helpful to me, because you also said, don't second guess yourself, trust your gut. And your posts, and I commented on a lot of your posts, and I really, really, really appreciated it, because it gave me the strength to realize, no, I'm not over-exaggerating this. They're trying to kill my kid.
Okay, I have to tell you that if you watch the film Art Club, you'll discover a family that we highlighted from Florida who discovered that they're a very conservative area. But and this could go on and on and on tonight, but I really do need to get Erin back to I do want to leave you.
Don't apologize
They address some very serious issues.
Several times you
But
said,
if you
I
stop and
apologize
think
for
about
saying
it,
this.
they're going to
Don't
change.
apologize.
If we get these on the ballot for 2026, they're
I
going to
love this
change
crowd.
the conversation
I get booed a lot.
for that election overall. And I respectfully disagree. I don't think it will take decades. It'll take a radical change. I see some radical changes coming here in Colorado, and I trust that this is the point of the spirit.
Sarah's like, go home.
I'm gonna close things out. You know what? Tom's gonna stand at the door and you can't get out of here unless you I just wanna tell everyone the petitions are sitting on the table. If you're a registered voter in Colorado, it doesn't have to be Summit County, in Colorado, please sign. When you sign, use your home address. Most of us have PO boxes here. Don't use your PO box, use your home address. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I said 8 p.m. is when we're gonna be finished. We're a little bit over that, but you know what? We're done.
How's Chloe doing?
She's great.
That's the most important thing here.
Yeah, that's what I always get the first question is, how's your daughter? I'm like, she's great. She has said, when we ask about it, she goes, this is one page and one chapter of my book, Mom. I'm over it. She doesn't love to rehash it all the time, so she doesn't like to hear my speeches, but she's like, I'm over it.
Get your stuff.
Thank you.
Hold on 1 second.